Okay, good evening, everybody that is on the line. As promised, this evening we've got Pastor Tlou Raymond Mokobi on the line. He is an elder in Limpopo. Those that know me would know he raised me. When I started preaching, it was under his leadership. And I thought that it would be proper just to come and speak to him and get to know him on a personal level and glean some of the leadership insights from him. He's a man of experience, fought so many battles and still standing. We draw so much inspiration from men of his caliber. Now, good evening, Pastor Tlou Raymond Mgo.
Good evening, Bramadiba.
It's really a privilege to have you here, and thank you so much for coming through. We have established this forum, and the purpose of this forum is just to get to know our elders better and just to document some of their experiences that 100 years down the line, posterity can have a point of reference. Now, maybe just to kick start, Pastor, and I was quite fascinated, Muruti, when you insisted that the name Tlou should be included in your name, and you said if it is only Raymond Mokobi, that is not your name, Tlou should be included. Maybe just tell us how the name Raymond came about. It was quite fascinating how the name Raymond Mokobi came about.
Okay, let me say good evening, listeners, and then be thankful to have been allowed. Am I clear or my voice is audible?
Very, very clear, Elder.
Okay, fine. And then I'm very thankful to have been invited on this forum. But to say my name, that's from birth I was called. From my childhood, I was known by that name. Any other name that came to me came very much late, because I think I did my standard, what he says, standard A or is standard or what A.
Yeah.
I did it in 1969. So I was already 10 years old, and then now I'm told what I have to say when I get to school. Tell them that Raymond. I was not Raymond. I had my name and my circumcision name, which disappeared from then on when I got this name Raymond. Then I even forgot the first time I got to school to tell them I'm Raymond. I just said, Then I thought I would say, if they ever ask me, I'll say I'm somewhere. And then the next day I got home, I had to tell them, hey, I was at school, I forgot that name. What we do say is that they had to write it down for me to be presented at school. So I would have been something different if I had presented what I had thought of.
And then where was Pastor Mukobi born?
I was born in the Tuatla. That is the area of Bochum, Louwbeek, at Amalobo, in 1959. But my exact date of birth, I don't know. How did I ever arrive at 1659? Is because the auntie that was taking care of me when during the time of circumcision of my uncles in 1960 in June. She told me I went behind the counter of that shop. Then I chose my birth to be 1960 because that time they were making us to pay taxes where if your age is above 60, then I had to say I'm 60 years old. They say, hey, where were you born? Then I had to give a name a date because now I didn't need that my ID or my passbook should come back and I be arrested when I'm going to collect it. Those laws, when you're still in apartheid South Africa.
Now, I'm getting interested because it paints a picture of the era in which you were born and raised. Because, firstly, as a youngster, now you give yourself a name to be accepted by the system. Then you had to scratch to come up with an idea and estimate your birth date. And I'm quite correct that is what characterized the apartheid system then. Am I correct, Pastor?
Yeah, we were in a terrible condition. We don't even want to talk about that. But
Yeah.
if need be, Pastor Mariba, I would wish, because we might antagonize some other people, but we would wish maybe to religiously speak things like religious people. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, those were things. And then you could have been arrested just straight when you go there to collect your dome pass. And that day you find that you're already over age by a year, you qualify, you should have paid tax for 2 rand. You must imagine that and get arrested for that.
Now, would I be correct, person, to say during that time, the difficulties that you faced as a child, faced in terms of choosing your age, choosing your name, it built up a character that prepared you later in life for leadership?
Would I say maybe in one or another? But I do think what builds up the character of a person is many aspects of life, many different things that happens in your life. They mold you into what you become.
Wonderful.
So, but I cannot deny, because the party system has done a lot of harm and havoc upon us. Even though I was in the difficult areas, I grew up conscious of what is happening. Even before I get to secondary school, I had already studied newspapers and things and so on.
And now, then, Pastor Tlou Mokobi, then as a teenager, what was his ambition? I mean, he's growing in this hostile environment. What was his ambition? This is before the ministry, this is before the conversion.
I should say already I had developed a desire to join the liberation struggle while I was still in my area. And I think around 1977 when I go into Form 1, because I think I should have done my Form 1 back then. Circumstances didn't allow, but then go not into those. But I had decided to join the liberation struggle. I wanted to keep myself in school until I do my Form 3. Then after, which would be, I don't know what they say, standard 8, it's something like that. In those other days programs, they've been changing. But I thought I'll just do that. So being capable of speaking a bit of English and so on, that would make me capable of joining the liberation struggle. And that's what my desire. And then to join the army of liberation at that given time.
Interesting. And maybe something that I just needed to put here. It is never wrong. I firmly believe it is never wrong to participate in the liberation or in any activity that is against injustice. Our prophet messenger mentioned about the gentleman called Geronimo, and he said this man was a gentleman because he was fighting for a just cause. And I think that history, we should never be ashamed of it, irrespective of where we are, who we are with. It is part of our history. We've got to acknowledge that in the past, there were injustices that were committed, and as a result, there were other people that were willing to step to the fore for the liberation of this country. And Pastor Mokobi was among those people that wanted to participate. Now, while your thoughts were dominated by this aspiration to participate in the liberation movement, how did the message find you?
Yeah, when we speak about the message, I can say there are strange destinies that happen to men. Is you do not plan how you are going to live your life, but I think God knew what was to happen in my life. Because in 1977, it was the end of the year, I read the spoken word, the Laodicean Church Age. And the Laodicean Church Age, I got it from a man called Raymond. We were staying at a school hostel in our dormitory. There would be people that would like to play outside balls and things. There were these guys that would always sit in the dormitory, relax there, more especially those who are more grown up, like they'll be sharing, talking things and all whatever. And then I was among them that day, and I took a book from Raymond. In Raymond's book, when I was reading it, it was the Laodicean Church Age. I read it about until where Brother Brown speaks about 1977. Then I closed the book. Then I started telling the people in my dormitory about it. And then I told my schoolmate about this William Marion Branham, American prophet that was talking about 1977, that the world is ending. Already I made up my mind that the world will end on the 25th of December, because I thought it is the likelihood for a Christian holiday to end the world on that. It will be far much better and fitting. And I believed that so strong until I started testifying about it. And then it scared those people that say, hey, you, Raymond, keep quiet.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear that. We are Indians. But now this is this is an American prophet. And that year I spoke much about it, even when I went home during school holidays, is what I wanted to share with my fellow young men, teenagers. And I spoke. I think I was telling my family that is the first day in my life. I started smoking at school. But the first day and the last day in my life where I smoked was that night, the 25th of December, 1977, because I knew the world was ending, according to me.
Yes.
The world was ending. There was no hope for doing any good. Even if you can do evil, is okay. So there's nothing I can. I never been to church. I don't know that God. So if He is bringing me to my end, why can't I fear to smoke dagga? Then I took dagga that night. After I got its influence, I left those boys because I was still testifying about 96.
Yeah.
Then I went to only to awake in the morning on the 26th alive. Then I said, that American prophet lied. That's how I received the spoken word. But now, around June holidays, I had a friend at school that we deliberated, we debated many things. We like argument items. And then he was a faith mission guy. Then I started talking with him to go to the faith mission. Then he said, take me there. But I told him I don't want a certificate. Then he said, no, if you want to be a part, I'll tell the pastor not to give it to you. Then when we were preparing to go there, we went to the school holiday in June. Then when I'm home, I'm telling my people about my desire to go to church. But by then, you must know, at school, I've been stopped even to ask questions religiously because I was very much and strongly against religion. And then I had developed a dislike for the existence of God. I said, no, if He was there. When I was a child, normally when you talk about God, even in classroom, I'll take 100 out of 100, whatever. I will read the Bible the whole night, never sleep. But when I grew up, I developed the thought that if this God was existing, these church people will not be doing what they are doing. Because if he has been punishing Israel and he doesn't punish these church people, so there's no the playing field to me was not level. That's how I came to think that God does not exist. And I started arguing. But that time now that I started again to have a liking, because I've read this book of Malachi 4. Then when I was preparing to go with this faith mission guy, one day in the classroom around July, after the school holidays has passed, we'll come back to school after June. It was now 78. Then they were brethren, they were sharing the message in the classroom, and I was a class monitor that day. I went to them and talked with them. Brian Ernest was the one in the message. Brian Ernest Hoyan is the one that I challenged him when he talked about Brother Brennan. I said, no, he failed by 1977. I don't know how things turn around. We end up talking about baptism. I found the baptism is correct. Then I forgot I was arguing about 77. Then I said, no, let them come and baptize me. That's how I came in the message. Then I believed this message. Shamefully, when I come in, I found people going out. And they were believing 77, and I was believing because of 77. I couldn't explain it, but I was believing.
Amazing, because you are telling me that even prior to you meeting the message, you were quite observant, and what seemed to put you off, it was the hypocrisy that you were seeing in churches during that time. Hence, you thought, if God is around, if he's existing, why would he let this hypocritical society to carry on with his name without defending himself? Now, my question would be, when you came into the message, what made the message to be distinct from what you were observing prior of you getting into the message?
No, look here, brother, such that a Lutheran pastor, before I went to my secondary school, he proposed for the Lutheran church to put me through schooling because I was from a poor family. I could not afford school fees during those days. It was very difficult. And then now I told him, look, I will disappoint you. Just leave me alone, because even if I go with the funds of your church, I will not come and worship this God. So it will not help you to pay for my fees. While I know, he smoked snuff, and he was a little bit, he would drink liquor. And I hated liquor with all my heart from my childhood. No, I couldn't believe a minister of the Lutheran Church smoking snuff, drinking liquor. At the same time, he's inviting me to join him in the Lutheran Church. I said, no, that won't work. Now, when I'm at high school, I'm in this condition, and I hear the message, and then it turned me around, really. But I had already a dislike for a behavioral pattern of hypocrisies that I had seen while I was a child.
Now, here's something interesting. Before, I remember many a times you and I would speak, and I was quite fascinated because a lot of people do not know that you even before you became a pastor, what makes your blood boil is injustice. And when you were in the workplace, you took quite a lot of fights on behalf of workers because of the injustice that you saw there with the trade. The people don't know that you've got a strong trade union background.
What can I say, Brahmadiva? Because those were those days. Because
Oh yeah.
sometimes I never called the white man a boss. During that time, when the white men were still called the boss, I told them, I grew up, I came here, grown up, you didn't feed me. No one is my boss here. If you don't want me, finish, I go. If you want me, I work. That's all. That's the deal. You see, now that is why at the end of the day we ended up in the liberation movement, in the union
Trade union.
Because at work the injustices that were committed there were terrible. You wouldn't like to see what was being done in the way that those men were being treated. You would feel pity, brother. If you come here, you get a man that is earning about 107 rand after he's been in the company for 5 years. You come there, you earn 160 rand. And now you ask yourself, the imbalances is so big. And yet this man is performing certain duties, and then those are professional mechanics and things and so on, but they are earning nothing. Then you end up advocating for unionism so that you can put pressure on the employer to try to say, hey, you can't do this to this man or whatever. That's what has happened to us when we were in the union movement, and then we were forced into it, the condition there.
Yeah. What interests me most, maybe before I carry on, it was a time where you resigned. I think it was from the bus company where you did not even serve the notice. You said, "Look, guys, I'm done."
Oh no, that was not at the bus company. He's my first employer. I used to work for a company that make exercise, and then I was
Yeah.
operating machines that cuts these exercises and pack them and so on. So I think one day we finished about 2 weeks without work. Machines were broken. Then that day I just thought, enough is enough. Let me get out of this and let these people alone. Then when people were getting out, I went into the manager's office, I threw my passbook or whatever, the Tom pass on his table, say, I sign it over, I'm not coming back tomorrow. So I felt fed up. I decided I'm not coming back. You see, we have lived under those things.
Yeah, yes. And then when did Muruti? I know because I kept on asking you many years back before I got married. I remember you got married around the age of 24, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And then what year was that?
It was 1983.
1983.
Mm.
Wonderful. Now, Pastor, you are a generation that believed in being in marriage for a long haul. Maybe if I was to use a phrase, you did not have a disposable mentality where our generation, if something is broken, they don't fix it, they throw it out. Now, your generation believed that if matters are broken, matters have to be fixed. What advice do you have for the generation that you see as far as marital life is concerned? I mean, 1983 until this far, you are still happily married with your lovely wife. Definitely, there is few insights that you can share with young ones.
Uh, what can I say, Brother Madiba? What advice can you give? Isn't it in simple terms? Whenever we go into marriage, we must be honest to our decisions. And then I believe that the person that is committing to marriage must be honest in his decisions. Because as Brother taught us, you know that it's not beauty, it's not what, it's what God has made in your heart. And if we believe that God gives a wife, why should we worry whether to decide who and so? Much of it, I think, it has got, even though we decide who to marry, but we must be believed we are under the guidance of God. The biggest problem now is people marry to fulfill their certain ambitions. One marries because he wants to be this, one marries because he wants this. But if we marry because we believe that we are grown up and we commit the whole thing in the hands of the Lord by prayer and wait for God's guidance, I don't think we'll see any divorces. But the problem is in the message, some of the things we do not want to believe them.
Mm.
If a person is married but wrongfully gotten married,
Mm.
like the Bible says, if you marry a woman and hate her,
Mm.
why don't the person learn to love their wives? Because if they have wrongfully chosen and they've gone wrong into their steps, but I think they can learn to love.
Mm.
That's still another option. To
Mm.
me, is there's no hopelessness in any situation, because if you say you are a believer, you fail to be properly honest, you didn't wait for the Lord to take your decision and guide you,
Mm.
and then you find that you miss somewhere to do the right thing. I think now is your duty as a human person, because you have got to uphold certain standards. If
Mm.
you really love the Lord, you do not want to disappoint in the way of the Lord.
Mm.
You must learn something yourself, because you do not have a proper love,
Mm.
but you took a wrongful decision. Then try by all means
Mm.
to see if you cannot honestly or learn to love, because
Mm.
you took a wrong decision.
Mm. Mm.
But the basic thing, basic is honesty. That has to be there. Prayerfully wait for the Lord's guidance. And I know, I always believe God gives guidance. That's why I scarcely would say to anybody, marry this one, marry that one. I don't like that.
Mm.
My wish is that when a person says he or she has prayed, to me, I believe is honest.
Mm. Mm. No, thank you for those insights, Pastor. You are now in the message. You are baptized. Now you are married. Then, how did it come about that Pastor Mokobi became a pastor? What events triggered ultimately this young man that grew up, had a liberation of the country on his mind? Now he's in the message, married. Now, how did he become a pastor?
You know, uh, there are words that were used by Paul, that
Mm,
he was born out of season.
mm,
I don't think I think I'm not misplacing him.
mm,
So we came into the message. We believed the message. We expected to go on and grow. But you must know, I was at a very strict high school. We're not allowed to go out.
mm,
But now we responded to the faith by putting testimonies around school.
mm.
We testify. There was this Christian student movement, or SCM, something like that.
Yes,
And
yes.
we used to go there, we would share with those people and argue with them in their meetings. When they put certain preachers, we argue those during question and answers, would be put our questions from would be scriptural to correct much of what was going on in all those things. And then we started testifying around school. From there, it went out. Then we started preaching ourselves, because we were not even allowed to go out of school. Then
Mm,
we have to preach at school and so forth. And then now, that's how I think. And what might be called a spontaneous response to preaching, but
mm,
not necessarily that we were preachers. We were just sharing among us, preach to each other, and so on, encourage one another, because we had no alternative. You
mm,
know, it took me quite a period before I even go to church. You
mm,
know, when they said a deacon, I thought it's the name of another man. When you say pastor, I thought it's the name of another man. I didn't know what those things are, but I believe the message here. These things about deacons, the pastor, those, maybe those men, but men called pastor, men called deacon, so forth.
mm.
After quite some times, when I come to church, I find, no, those are titles given to offices in the church, late, very
Yeah.
late. But I already ministering among ourselves in our own corners. I didn't even, because I had never been to church before in my life before I come to the message. And
Yeah.
then I was not a church person. My family was not church people. The first place where I came to worship is in the message. So that's why I can say what I say. And then I started ministering there. Then I think around the beginning of 1980 is when I first preached. It was in Tlou at Moreno's family. Then I preached the first message. That one I still remember vividly. A prophet. Um, what was the way of a true prophet? Is a message like that. Am I
Yes, yes.
correct?
You're
So
correct.
your gatherers might scare their heads are failing to think right.
Yeah.
The way we do, then this first message I preached in the normal church. You see, and then from there on, I started preaching in the church, and
Eh,
then how
eh,
to become a pastor. It was circumstantial. Things fell apart, and you know they didn't work well. And then at the end of the day, there were frustrations that happened in our church. The elders had left their offices and so forth, and the church had to sit down, the officers and so on. They had to push and put and elect, put elections and so forth. After those elections, I was brought in, but I refused very much. I think Brian Golima persuaded me very strong because I couldn't take it for quite a long. I was saying, no, it can't be. But until I succumbed, then I agreed. But I always thought I would just help for a certain period and get out of it. I didn't want to stay in the pastor's office. That's why I've never acted like I'm a pastor. I've always acted like I'm just working.
yeah.
So
And,
I
and
think now that I'm an old man, I realize that I've got no alternate. My life has expired being in that office. So then I can accept that I'm in that office. I'm a pastor.
and this was 1984 when you became a pastor after the crisis in the church. So you had to come in and manage the crisis and lead the church from 1984, if I'm correct.
Yeah, on the 10th of October, that's when I come into the office. That's when they voted me in. You know, we used to have a holiday on the 10th of October in the
Yeah.
old system. And then on that day, on that holiday, I was elected or I was voted in into the office.
And you were relatively young then. How did you make the old men to take you seriously for the ministry? This can be a lesson for young men.
I think the other things, Brahma, it's not what you do. You don't need a person to listen to you. You let God have His own way. Then at the end of the day, even an old man can listen to you. I was called names or told things, and all those things. I was ridiculed. I'll just be there and listen and live. And the next time I'll come back with scriptures and put a challenge. If the person cannot overcome that, I'll tell the person, look here, we're not here to play. We're here for the scriptures, not for your business. Why are we doing these things? It's not because you are here. We're doing it because the Bible said we should do it. Even if I can leave it for a period, when I come back, I'll be over. The game is done, finished.
And your advice in terms on young men, their approach to the ministry, and what advice would you give to young men? Because truth be told, we have those that are responsible, and we have those that approach things haphazardly. What advice would you give young men as far as entering the ministry and preserving the integrity of the ministry?
Brahma, when we talk about young people coming into the ministry, because if we look here, we people like myself, I think I was blessed because even though I had hardships, I had Brankolima in Pretoria and I had Brahmakola. I would visit them when things are too challenging. I know I had many other things, but proper respect and honor should be given to those men for their contribution when we were having those conditions and situations. But if you say you want to advise a young man going into the ministry, we have got to be very, very considerate. I had a thought that we can give a scriptural advice. In the book of Romans chapter 12, verse 7, Paul has been talking about the different gifts that are happening in the body and all those things. But he says, verse 6, he says, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on our ministries. I do believe learning to wait is a virtue. As we can read it in the book of Isaiah, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, and so forth. And if people do not hurry up and try to produce the product themselves, but they fully rely on God to guide them, then to me, I think we will always have better ministers, we will always have better results, because we are not hurrying on our own. We wait for the Lord to guide. So unless they had a situation like those of ours, because look, when we come in, there were different issues and things that were happening. Some of the things were conditions that were forced upon us. And at the end of the day, we had to sit down, and the elders that were at that time had to take decisions, hard and harsh, and then come up with the result, because life had to go on. But here we've got people that are not pushed by anything. If they love the Lord and they love to serve Him right, and if they can wait by the Holy Ghost to know what ought to be done, I believe those people will get the right results. So there will be no shameful end results that are seen here and there in our generation.
Now, I know you are not keeping the stats, but some of us, we keep the stats.
Oh,
You have produced a big number of young ministers who are thriving in their own right wherever they are. And in this case, I'm included. I'm part of the people that you have produced. Was there a deliberate strategy in producing us, or it was it by design or by default?
I can not say it was by a design, but it was not also a thought out strategy. So would I say no and say yes in this manner? I didn't think that we are preparing to produce ministers, but there is one thing which I like. I like liberty. I like people who are themselves. You know, if somebody is working with you but is hypocritical, he's just working with you to please you, Brahmadi, but that is uncalled for. But let's say we have people that are just themselves. At the end of the day, we have this man articulating certain things in his life, that one articulating things in his life. It shows that it is the individual being that is expressing itself. It is bringing forth a certain type of a character in that specific person. So at the end of the day, we have people that when they try to work up things, because they have been themselves all along, even if there's failures, is very little failures because they haven't been trying to please an elder or a pastor or what. They existed. They didn't preach to please me because I'm there in the church. When they preach, they just preach. When they did things, they were just doing them for the Lord. That's what they're thinking. And that is what I believe. But it was not that I wanted these people to become pastors and all those things. I just believed that everybody, when he's expressing himself liberally or freely, it will yield the result at the end of the day. So we allowed that. And then, so we didn't implement a strategy to bring results, but we end the results because when those men and women are themselves, that's why I have got so many men that propose women that they refuse to get married by them because we taught people that they must take decision. Even women, they must take decision. They must not just say yes because a brother is a preacher, a brother is rich, a brother. They must they must take their own decisions. So at the end of the day, we are people that are independently deciding. So you can't say we didn't put a strategy to produce, but we worked in a way that we put each individual the liberty to act on himself or herself. The end product has produced what we have today. So they can go out there as ministers, have their own errors, but is very much limited. Even any other people that went with them, they are in their churches, they don't have much to cry about, even though they might rise things here and there.
One thing that I must say, you have taught us how to think, not what to think. Because many a times, I mean, I think as young as I was 14, 13 somewhere, I remember there was a time we were at Brother Mahamata's place and we were deliberating on a lot of things until the wee hours of the morning. And even where I agreed with you, you were pushing me into the corner to make me justify why I agree with you. It must not be agreeing for the sake of agreeing. And that has built a character in us to be able to interrogate matters and to be independent in how we think. And for that, we really want to appreciate you on that, Muruti.
No, I thank God for that. That's what I like. That's why we don't want zombies around us. We don't have monies. We want to live in people. I think that's the desire of every pastor or elder, that those people around him that are with him would be lively and they'll
Yeah.
be themselves. They'll be able to answer a question themselves. They'll be able to articulate their mind and express their feeling without fear or prejudice.
Wonderful. Now, when you look at your generation has done very well, and I know that there's been challenges. Uh, the landscape has not been perfect, but despite that, your generation has done exceptionally well. Tabernacles have been built, ministries have sprung forth from your ministries. Do you think what do you think there is a smooth generational handover? Meaning, do young men respect the role of elders such as yourself in this transitional period?
No, Brahmani, but this is very awkward.
Yeah.
Our generation, whose generation? Because here I come. I found people in the message. You see, okay, I by default might be called part of their generation, okay? If that might be for now allowed.
Yes, it is.
And then as a handover is another issue on its own, because from the look of things, if people can look, is look at what these things. If you establish a congregation, I don't know what handover do you mean handover, meaning that the work can go from one elder to the other, or what handover is this which you are looking at?
This handover in this case will be referring to the custodianship of the message. I think maybe 30 years from down the line or 40 years, your generation may not be around. Do you think that the new generation will be able to value what you have built?
Even though it's not a smooth handover, partly I believe they will be able to go on. Partly. I cannot say 100% because if you have got people that are magnified, sometimes you do not have good results. But if this can independently know that they are God's servants to serve a purpose in life, they will get the right result. They won't fail. Even the failure in life is part of the game, I think. But believing that they are serving God, you know we've got very good things that goes with the message of the hour. But let's talk about the respect from this generation for the elders. Really, that is very much lacking here and there. But where you find it is fine. But what I want us to believe is that those people having had no proper handover whatsoever or whatever, if they really do believe God and they are here to serve God and they know what ought to be done, let them do it. And then, regardless of what they have done to who, whether you are an elder, they didn't cherish you or whatever, but if you can try your best to encourage them to take the right path, the Bible teaches us that brings a child in a way that it should grow. When it has grown up, it will not depart from it. Because you know that even people, you can raise children, they go out and smoke dach. You can't say these children are respecting me, but still you stand on your ground to say to them that is not the right way to go. And they know what is right at one time or another. And the other thing is prayer. If there can be failure in handover, but there be the right kind of a prayer for the youth that are upcoming, I believe that they will still raise from the dust and do the work, and providence will take care of the rest, because we do not determine the footsteps of others. But as for now, I think the elders would need to learn to try by all means. Those people are not angels. They've got their wrongdoings, they've got things that will go wrong in, but they need their helping hand in this thing.
Now, I'm personally sympathetic to the cause of Pan-Africanism. And truth be told, I'm speaking for myself. If I was not in the message, I would be aggressively pushing a Pan-Africanist agenda somewhere for some reason, because I mean, I'm part of the people that were marginalized. I'm part of the people that were rejected. I'm part of the people that were degraded. Now, and truth be told, when I picked up the sentiments of how Brother Brenham felt when he came to South Africa in the 50s, and saw how black people were being treated and how he could not stomach that for me somewhat proved to me, over and above the pillar of fire, the cloud, it proved to me that this is the man that I can follow. This is the man that believes in equality and justice. Do you believe the message of Malachi 4, as a former liberation movement aspirant, do you believe the message of the hour has been an equalizer? I'm saying that because educationally, we still have inequality. Politically, we still have inequality. Politically, economically, we still have inequality. Messagically, do you think we are home and dry? Can Madiba stand shoulder to shoulder with a white boy and say, look, I can deliver the same quality of results that you can deliver, and not be apologetic?
No, being not apologetic is your choice. Whether you become apologetic, that's your choice. That is the choice of the person that is standing there. But if the presence of a white man intimidates you, that's your choice. But here we talk about Pan-Africanism.
Yeah.
But I doubt it very much to be what can be the right kind of a tool, because it's a principle and an advocacy for, in one way or another, political unity among Africans. So, we would still need a social cohesion. We would still need a way to economically work together. Then how are we going to get rid of greed and some of the things that are personal, whatever? And then what made the white man to dominate a black person is because many a time blacks, they need to always to feed from the crumbs that falls from the master's table. And then for that very reason, money or the financial aspect of life influences the actions of many Africans. So Africanism becomes a misnomer. But, well, those who are trying to pursue it, because look at my party, how weak it is. I'm sorry to say that. Because why? My party, the PAC.
Yeah, you're welcome to mention it, yes.
Yeah, I say the PAC is so weak. That I love that party, and I love Pan-Africanism myself. And I'm an Africanist and internationalist. I think you would understand. I'm apologetically such. But
I know.
The same thing is, if we take greed out of the equation, it's not because we shouldn't be trying to be better over the shoulder of another man. We do not have to ride over somebody to achieve our goal. And again, we should not be blaming somebody for our failure. We spend a lot of energy trying to talk about the white man, what he has done, and all those things, and yet we are doing nothing. And then you go, and I got a Christian convention, which is not a businessman, but I've got the Lutherans, I've got the ZCCs, I've got that's a meeting in my village. I put all the pastors in that from their denominations. We come together, we chat things, we talk. And then I've allowed that. And then when we started with this coronavirus, I have to call them to start praying for coronavirus and all those things. And I just keep them busy. They pray, do this, Wednesdays. But let me tell you something here. People want good things. They do not want good things to come by them. They want others to do good things. If we want good things, let us start doing it. If I ask the Pan-Africanist, how many of the children of others in their lifetime, within the constraint of their lack, have they helped an African child to succeed, even put him through the classroom up to a university level? None. What do you think can be achieved with a Pan-Africanism which is not Pan? It is a non-advocacy because the people themselves are doing nothing. Your great-grandfather had to take in his household the children of his neighbors when they were poor. They will not sleep without food. That is what the Africans did. That why don't our people do that today? Okay, let us not go much into Pan-Africanism. Let's come into the message, whether it has empowered the African properly.
Yeah.
You see, now here it brings greed again. Many times you find that we're having shameful conditions sometimes. We've got elders that have been in churches and they've been suffering in certain conditions, and nobody's trying to help those elders, but they contributed. And then the message is the most purest thing that can ever be received. If the people that were critics against Brother Branham would say of him, he was the most transparent man alive, what do you think that man has produced as a product? The message came to Africa as a product that has never been contaminated. And look, you go around, you study the histories, and the book Rhodesia, The Last Outpost to the British Empire, and many other books of likes. You realize that the religious people, more especially white that came under those denominational names, they were here to achieve a white man's destiny and embetterment of their countries of origin, not embetterment of the lives of African through Christian character. So hence, the people in Africa hate to hear the Bible because of what has been happening. Because some of the things that these people are articulating are real. We can give real names of real men that did real things, historically can be proven. You see? And then now, take honest men like Oliver Tambo. Take honest men like the president of the ANC before Oliver Tambo, that old man, he was...
Literally.
Yeah, he should be Literally.
Albert Literally.
Is that Literally or what?
Albert.
He was a Christian. And now, look at their character. What neutralized the extremism character, like of our party, the PAC, in the ANC, was because of Christian character within the movement of the ANC. You know, that old man, Oliver Tambo, he was a prayer warrior. He prayed every day until, even in the liberation struggle, in the liberation, a man that would pray every day of his life in the liberation struggle is uncalled for. But here we have people that came to Africa to contaminate and corrupt it using the Bible. So you see, we had a problem, but the message has come to Africa clear with its purity. It's only the Africans hold it to corrupt it because they are corruptible. They are corruptible because of greed. They want to enrich themselves. The message where it should have been articulating as different kind of a character to our nations and our people, our communities. At the end of the day, we have got some sort of puggish attitude that become part of what the day-to-day running of the message is.
Wonderful. Now, whenever people think of Pastor Mokobi, bravery, frankness, resilience, and courage are some of the values that they associate with you. You may not know, but maybe it is because of certain instances. Maybe I can give 2 instances. There was a time, you may not remember, but we do remember. There was a crocodile in the river. You saw the crocodile and you were going there to baptize somebody. And you went into the water knowing very well that there is a crocodile that is moving around in the water. You went there, turned your back, the crocodile was behind your back, and you baptized a person, and you did not want to speak about it because you did not want to cause panic. It is only later that one of them later phoned you and say, were you aware of the crocodile that was in the river? And you said, yes, I was aware, but I did not want to cause panic. We had to go there and do what needed to be done. That's boldness, that's courage. What makes you to be this courageous and to be this resilient and to be frank? Because another thing, whenever, and you have taught many of us, whenever, however you feel about a matter or an individual, you are always direct with that individual. No one is ever left guessing where they stand with Pastor Mokobi. They always know where they stand with you, given that frankness. How did you build those values?
This is a simple thing, brother. Isn't it? Is what we are called to do. What are we to do? What are we here for? In the message, to be honest, that is basic. That's why how we can deal with our fellow men, women, and all those things. I wouldn't fear to be challenged by my wife, and she would debate the issues throughout the night. I would sit there and debate with her. I wouldn't fear to be challenged by a young man or old man or any other person. But afterwards, we can still be frank and go on in life. Then it's openness to me. And then there's nothing to fear. I don't fear even whether there can be somebody who takes over my church and cause a split or what. Those things, if they happen to me, it's nothing. It's just part of life. And I never hated men because things has happened. But I cannot say is that much bravery. No, I'm the worst coward that you can ever meet in life. I think you don't know. Even I don't like fighting. I don't like these things and so on. But this is a very simple issue. If you face a thing, and therein comes an inspiration upon you, that is what determines the action. Even if you face a situation and there's a certain inspiration comes upon you, if it is a scriptural inspiration, you know that the situation is taken care of. You see? Let me just give an example of a crocodile. You go into the river, there comes the crocodile from the depth, it's coming straight to you. And then you are going straight this way, it's coming straight this way. Then here it comes nearer you, then it stops. But you keep on going, and then you stop and turn your back around to the crocodile. You baptize a person. It's nothing. But as I went in, the words of Brother Branham came into my mind that as a human being, the only thing that a crocodile can attack me is if I fear. If I don't fear, it will not attack me. So the situation is taken care of. No fear, no attack. Then I keep on going. I turn my back over to the crocodile. I baptize the brother. I prayed over the brother. I think the wife said when I was praying over her husband, she was almost fearing. She was the pastor is praying too long. Why doesn't he finish? Because she has seen the crocodile herself. But after that, I prayed. Then I let the man goes out because according to the knowledge of animal life, the crocodile attacks the one that comes first in and the one that goes last out. So I had to be the first in and the last out, so that the only vulnerable person can be me. And for me to be vulnerable and not fearing, the crocodile looking at me, not fearing, it would not attack. The prophet said so, and the way were tested and were found right. So to me, there's no bravery in that. You see? So any other thing that we do it just to say, let God have his own way. And then at the end of the day, the result becomes all right.
Now, in Limpopo, you ordained many pastors. I mean, in our generation, when we grew up, you took care of the whole province of Limpopo. But there was a time where you went and ordained pastor in Zanin, Venda, Bochum. You ordained pastors all over. And many people deemed that to be the decentralization of power when you ordain pastors in those areas. What made you to take that approach? Somebody could have been, it was more abrupt, it was done quicker, within a short period of time, it was done.
Oh, no, maybe that's where I have my own errors that were terribly committed, because it was done more quicker or so. But let me say it frankly this way. I'd always thought as much that I've got a vast area, meaning that as you age, you not always be able to do what you used to do. There, I needed a helping hand. Then I encouraged people for that. But I think some brethren might have had the sentiments pertaining to that. Maybe not heeded much, but heard. But when I sat down with Brother Chesa, and we communicated many things, we talked many things, we chatted, we challenged, we talked, and so on. That's when I realized vividly that this is what I'm going to do. And then after talking to Brother Chesa about such like things and situations like that and so forth, he was way ahead of me. He had many pastors from his church. He had, you get the idea. Then when I come back home, I realized that this can be done. Then I thought much as it, and then whatever inspiration was upon me to think about it, I just thought, Lord, I will just do it. And then I know in it there are failures and so on, but at the end of the day is how we end up. And what we wanted to do is to respect their jurisdiction and their position as they took their respective places. And we have tried our best to do that to now.
Now, another thing, thanks Mruti on that one. This is my question. Do you think we, as leaders in the message community, have mastered the art of conflict resolutions? And if there are gaps, how can we close those gaps? Are we really clinical when we resolve conflicts at leadership level in the message?
Yeah, but not very well. You see, there are many churches that are offspring of others. Which sometimes they end up not even seeing eye to eye, not even visiting each other. It is just a mess. So how can we say conflict has been properly mastered if such situations do exist? But look, we have got the COD. That is basically a standard that has been given to us. That we should look at that. May we read two scriptures?
Yes.
Relating to my thinking. If we go to Genesis chapter 18, and then I listened to you on the family altar. I thought I will read this one also.
By the way, that's the first time I came across that scripture for I know Abraham. You read that scripture in another wedding.
No, when I heard it, you reading it, it came back to me that is quite well what I would like to see.
Yeah.
And then it revived in me what I liked, and then I thought as much if we talk about conflict. You see, there is what I might tell and say is the cry of God, that his people are not properly judged. And then if you go throughout the Old Testament books, you find God crying about that. He needed his people to be rightfully judged. That's what God desires. And in this, he said, and the Lord said, verse 17, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. Now, to do justice and judgment, God always has a need of that. Now, because we are on air, it will not be needful for us to trace many other things.
Yeah.
But just a snappy look into the Bible. Matthew chapter 23, verse 23 says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrite, for ye pay tithe of mint and onions and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. This ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. So to me, if we can go back to the COD in approach, regardless of the situation, and we look at what the Bible teaches us here, the cry that God has about his own people, where they are being mishandled, I believe that much will be done correct and right. Do you get the point?
I get it.
These conflicts will be resolved amicably. But if we depend, because look, the way doesn't change. If you go back to the Bible, you do things the Bible way. It cannot be that we have found that because it's was child, you judge the case different. Because it was child, you judge. So it will show evenness in the way that things are being implemented. So the so-called conflict will be handled right. So let us take the weightier matter of the law. We have received the tithe, it has put the coffers, builded houses, give us cars and all those things, offerings and things and all those things, judgment, mercy, and faith excluded. Then, and these three are the weightier matter of the whole. Why don't we come back to this? So that when this other part is happening, this one also stabilizes the whole vehicle. Then we know the message is a powerhouse. You know, I believe today the devil should have been very ashamed with his coronaviruses and these things. With us having done everything right, brother, it gives us leverage. We are the powerhouse. We speak and things happen the way we do. But how many times do we speak and things happen? We cry and mourn and cry and mourn. Nothing happens because God's people are shamefully afflicted and the word of God is neglected. So let's go back. This man who even his enemies are saying he was the most transparent man, has given us the conduct, the CODs and all the norms. The Bible itself backs the whole thing. If we do it right, we come up right.
Wonderful. Now, Pastor, with the benefit of wisdom, experience, and hindsight, when you look back, and if you could turn back the clock of time, what would you do differently?
Very little. No, there I will do very little.
Yeah.
Unless with my personality and my character. Do you get?
I
Because
get
I
it.
believe we have tried to do everything according to the word. And if we get corrected according to the word, then it will be more easier for us. There will be very little to do different. But myself being an aggressive man and a high-tempered person a very terrible character. There I can say, let's go back and turn many things around. So we correct a lot of things because I'm not a good man, I'm an evil man.
But no, I will disagree because God, you know, Paul. Paul was a problem before he got converted. The church was afraid of Paul. Even after he was converted, Paul was still a problem to the church. Now, a lot of times, God changes a direction of a character, does not change a character. So, what I mean, God is God of variety. There are certain situations that requires militancy. There are certain situations that require gentlemen.
But
So if we all become gentlemen, it's gonna be messy.
no, but you included this with hindsight.
Yeah, oh yes.
So I've got to go back myself. And
Yeah.
then, but you didn't say don't go back on yourself. You generally, your question is generally, it allows me space. So I put it as I am allowed a slot. Then I see what can be corrected. The only character that need to be corrected is Raymond. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need to be the right man.
No,
So
but
if I
but
get to right, then I think much would have been different.
but,
But
but I but I get you, Muruti, because you are simply saying, given your militant character, there are certain situations where if you would revisit them, maybe the militant approach should have not been the one that should have been adopted. I hear you loud and clear. Now,
definitely,
it is every time I hear you preach,
uh,
every time I hear you preach, always David becomes very prominent in your sermons, especially his relationship with his son Solomon. And many a times I've heard you reading what David would say to Solomon when he came to the end of his tenure. Now, the question would be, what has made Pastor Mokobi to take a keen interest in David, particularly towards the tail end of his tenure and his conversations with his son Solomon?
person.
Mm.
Eh, ah, you know, I love David. I love David. I'm sorry. But let it slot every time. But he said many times.
Maybe
It
sorry
cannot,
to,
it
may-
is
maybe
not
sorry
every time.
Maybe
Sorry?
sorry to maybe sorry to interrupt. You remember when we met in Venda? I said we're in the office. I said, Yumrut, it looks like when we get to heaven, when you arrive, the first thing we'll say, hey, gentlemen, where is David? I need to speak to that fella."
Why would I need to talk to David? Because he's taken care of already. I will do it
Yeah,
for others who are more weaker than I.
yeah,
The only thing I love David,
yeah.
you know, Maliba,
Mm,
there are places where things wouldn't have gone wrong as they have if
mm,
we heeded what the teachings of the Bible says.
mm.
Do you get the idea?
I get it.
I don't know whether I'm overstretching your time because
No,
I
no,
have
no,
to.
no. We are fine, Murut. We are fine.
Okay, okay,
Mm,
thanks. But let us look at David
mm,
and his relationship to God.
mm,
That relationship is superb.
mm,
It is not head off. Even after David had failed, God still
mm,
come back to tell him that I'm going to give you a son. You know. Sometimes you go into David's life, you see things that sometimes would make you to be wondering, because here he goes to take another man's wife and comes to bear a child with that woman. God calls the wife of the son of that woman his own son. What do you think about it? And then though he's a grandson of a Gentile himself.
Yeah.
You get it?
I get it.
Great grandson of an incest child, where the grandfather lied with the daughter-in-law, where the father-in-law lied with the daughter-in-law to give birth to his great-grandfather. Now, you look at the all-forgiving heart of God and the love that God had for his people when you look at David. But I want people to notice one thing. God always respects his word. When a man keeps God's word, I wouldn't say I saw David doing this, but I believe what kept him busy is because he did what God wanted him to do. We have never have a great king in Israel above David. And I don't think there is any. If we go and think about going to the Bible and search out, there was never a king that matches David. But David had a very strange relationship. And if I sit down in a church and I hear somebody talking about David, I like it. And I enjoy it because it's talking about this man. But I want us to read in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17.
Yeah.
Would it be allowed?
Yeah, it's allowed, Muruti.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this book, we are told this. When thou art come, verse 14, when thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all nations that are about me. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. The Lord will choose the king. One from among thy brethren shall thou set king over thee, thou mayest a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses, for as much as the Lord has said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away, neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. It shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom. This is what I want. When he sit upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of the law in a book out of that which is before the priest, the Levite. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the ways of this law and these statutes, to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. Now, what I like is that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren. The way David articulates and teaches the adherence to the law, you recognize that this man reads the law. Yeah, the way he teaches the law. David was a good teacher of the law. By teaching the law and believing the law and adhering to the law, he was capable of even drafting the temple that Solomon his son built. He accumulated gold and silver for the building of that house. Now, to me, here is an exemplary man. He failed like all other men, because even when he saw the word coming, he preempted God, after giving Brother Abraham the message of the seals and he has preached these things to us, he had to take Brother Abraham and show him David and the error that David committed. And he said to us, trying to do God a service, but the example thereof is David. What David, the error that he committed, he saw the coming of the word, but he thought it can be implemented in his day while it was to be implemented in the days of his son. Then when he was operationally in there, recognizing his failure, that's what I like about it. Having repented, now God comes to him to tell him that his son will do it. Why don't the elders recognize that? If they are aging, one day there has to be another generation to come and finish where they couldn't finish. And they start working towards that goal as David did. Our desire is not a failing Solomon, but our desire is a men, women that will handle the baton to the end and produce the product. And God said he will honor the desire of our hearts. So let's do it right, and it will be right. So the young generation can go with a blessing from the passing generation, and then not a curse. Here is a man did it. And if you go and check where David was speaking in the book of Samuel, he said, he that have the rule over men must first be just and rule in the fear of the Lord. You see justice again and judgment and all those things that the Lord always cherishes. They were found in David. Why wouldn't we cherish a man like that? To me, it's a masterful act that has happened in the life of that. We should start seeing much of our elders doing things in a way that will be acceptable to the Lord, not to their norm.
Thanks for that, Murud. You keep saying Brother Branham, even his enemies remember him as a transparent man. Now, the question would be, and I think that's what we are remembering Brother Branham for, very transparent man. How would Pastor Mokobi want to be remembered?
Myself?
Yeah.
No, don't worry about my being remembered. People always observe a thing and deduce. When they deduce, that is how they will remember. I cannot determine how people will remember me. If need be, they might think of me as an unprofitable servant.
Now you remind me of Mandela. He says, I don't want to determine how people will remember me. Everyone must remember me in their own way.
All right. That's, I think, is something of value.
Yes. And now, what is Pastor Mukobi's heartfelt message to the message community? I mean, we have people, I see people are online streaming. It just shows the respect and how valuable they deem your insights to be. What heartfelt message do you want to send to the message community?
We can look in Galatians chapter 5. We'll read only maybe 3 verses, and then I think that will be enough. Galatians chapter 5. May I read it?
Yes, Guru.
All right. So here is what Paul spoke. You know, he says, for brethren, in my own ears, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one of another. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Thanks.
Now, Pastor Mukobe, this is from me to you. and I mean, you have been a pastor over 36 years. I just want to say we appreciate you. Many people don't know, maybe just to give a personal testimony. My father passed away when I was still very small. And ever since that time, you assumed a father figure role in my life over and above being a pastor. And I've seen you have paid student fees for students that could not pay and had no means to pay. I remember when my father passed away, it took a while even for funeral policies to pay out, but you stepped in and said the burial must take place. Even if there is a delay, the church will take over. So we have learned so much from you. We have seen leadership displayed, and I know at times it has not been easy. You have been at loggerheads because people did not see your vision. But today, when we look at the results after 36 years, indisputably we can say you have produced sound results. And we want to appreciate you. We don't want to say this when you are gone. We want you to hear it while you are still alive. You have been a great leader. We have looked up to you. Some of us, we have taken some of the values and principles that you have taught us, and we have implemented them in our lives, and our lives have been different. We have been able to deliver the result, and we are really proud that we can really regard you as the foundation of our family tree. We know that is the prophet, but at some point in time, there is a branch called Pastor Tlou, Raymond Mokobi, that became part of the family tree that produced the likes of Madiba and the rest. We really salute you, Elder. We appreciate you. I know it has not been a perfect journey, but we have learned both from perfection and imperfection. It has been a balanced ministry. We really, really appreciate you, and we have learned so much from you tonight. And we'll keep on praying for you that may the Lord preserve you, because from time to time we need elders that we can refer to when we come across certain situations. You've always been free. One can pick up a call and say, Pastor, this is the situation. How do I navigate around this? And you have always been available. Many people that don't know you, you are not a good subscriber to hierarchy. You detest a hierarchy in somewhat. And I was shocked the other time where your car broke down. Many people of your age and of your caliber would obviously phone another brother and say, Brother, pick me up. But I was shocked you left the car and you say, I took the taxi and I went all the way to Letswatle in a taxi. And I was wondering if you get into a taxi and you will see Pastor Mokobi there. So it shows the kind of leader that you are, in touch with the people. You could have been living a luxurious life, but you have built a massive tabernacle. Maybe for those that don't know, let me bring the tabernacle on the screen here so that somebody can see. It looks like an eagle flying. Let's just show the people this tabernacle that you built. This is the tabernacle, Seshego tabernacle that Pastor Mugobi built. Very beautiful. It looks like an eagle with wings. And maybe people don't understand, Pastor, when you built this tabernacle, it was during the time when Limpopo was not a booming economy. I remember you hired a farm and worked on the farm, sold tomatoes, sold vegetables in order to build this tabernacle. And it is standing there today as a monument of a man who has been selfless in contributing to the message of the hour. And for that, we want to salute you. We want to appreciate you, and let it be known as you age gracefully, knowing that you have given it your best shot.
Thank you, Pastor Madiba. I would say, let all honor go to the Lord, because if he hadn't called me, I think I would have long died. But it is his grace that has allowed me to exist to this far. and all contributions that were made have been made possible by his guidance. I thank him the more, and I salute him the more, for all that came to be is because of his kindness and goodness and mercy. Thanks.
We appreciate you. We love you. God bless you. Thank you for being available.
Amen. And God bless
Salute.
you.